course.
Oh my God.
31 spectators and killing 3.
Welcome back to A Buddy Influence. It is your boy Jay, back with another reaction video. This time, Group B when rallying got too fast. The last one y'all had me reaction to, that last rally video, was insane. They telling me that this one is even crazier. I mean, how can I not react to it? So without further ado, let's jump right into it.
Quattro, Lancia 037 and the Peugeot 205 T16, some of the most iconic names in rallying. Cars that pushed the limits of what was possible in a way that we haven't seen since. It was called Group B.
Why are you
and
standing
is still
that
held
close?
as the golden era of rallying. Group B was a class where
Look at
manufacturers
this.
were allowed to go
Look at
all out
this.
with almost unlimited power, crazy aerodynamics and new exotic materials. It brought about new technologies like four-wheel drive, semi-automatic gearboxes and clever turbocharging systems. However, it was only for the bravest of drivers. The hugely powerful cars
Bravest of
needed
drivers,
a lot
the
of
bravest of-
manhandling
look at
to
this
thread them
dude.
through the tight, twisty stages, away from huge drops and dodging a sea of spectators. But how did this come about?
A
And what
sea
can we
of
learn from the
fools.
crazy cars that won in the Group B era? Rallying went wild in the 80s. The FIA wanted to attract more manufacturers and so created a class that would give the designers pretty much free reign. No power limits, no regulations on
No power
boost, and
limits.
whatever exotic materials you liked. Rally cars over the years have been largely based on road cars, with rules tightening and loosening on how close the relationship has to be between the stock car and the ones that actually race the stage.
So they were just
For
racing
example,
regular
in the
cars at
Group
first?
A
Is that
class,
kind of how
the
that happened?
manufacturers have to produce 5,000 road-going versions of the car before it is allowed to compete. In Group B, to lower the costs and interest manufacturers, they ruled that only 200 cars needed to be produced. Group B also
Interesting.
allowed almost endless modifications to be made, meaning the rally cars were nothing like the road cars at all. This approach really worked, attracting many manufacturers to Group B, names like Lancia, Porsche, Peugeot, Audi, Toyota, Ford.
So whoever
as
had the
well as
most
so
money
many
had
more.
the competitive
Lancia
advantage,
took
I
the
would
Drivers'
think.
Championship in
God,
the first
why
year
are you
of
standing
Group
there?
B with the 037. It was the last rear-wheel drive car to win in the WRC. It was incredibly light,
Oh, he
using
swerved that.
fiberglass and Kevlar for the body, and was powered by a mid-mounted 250 horsepower engine. It has much larger wings than many cars of the time, with a huge rear spoiler to stabilize the car at high speeds. It was supercharged to avoid turbo lag, and it was incredibly quick on the tarmac stages. However, it wasn't quite as quick on loose surfaces. So in stepped Audi with the Quattro, one of the most innovative rally cars of all time. A true
Is that what it
game
got? Is it called the
It
Quattro
had an
port? Is
inline
that? I know
5
Audi
engine
kind of
with a
has that
very
in their
clever
line. Is that where they got that
turbocharging
from?
system that produced over 450 brake horsepower. It had a small
Damn.
valve that kept the turbo spooled even when off throttle, meaning there was very
Damn.
little turbo lag, making the car quick out of the tight turns. The Audi also had a very aggressive aero kit with a huge spoiler at the front of the car and an even bigger wing on the back.
So Audi
This
got
was
cracking
one of the
because of
first
rallying?
Sophisticated uses of aerodynamics.
Like, that's how
in
they got
rallying.
popular?
Drivers said it made the car extremely stable at high speed. The insane power was put through a clever semi-automatic gearbox and drove all 4 wheels. It was the first car to use a 4-wheel drive system effectively. Before this,
Wow.
many manufacturers stuck to rear-wheel drive as they thought the additional weight would outweigh any time gains from the extra traction. And yes, the Audi was very heavy, and the 4-wheel drive system meant the weight was higher up than you would like in a rally car normally. But despite the compromised dynamics, it worked. The Audi had more power than the rest of the field, but could also use it more effectively, deploying more power even on surfaces like gravel, dirt and ice. Audi won
Okay.
its first race with the car and didn't really stop after that. They shaved seconds, if not minutes, off stage times. The Audi 4-wheel drive system really changed the game in
That car
rally.
moving.
But the Audi dominance didn't last long. Peugeot came out with a car that would expose the weaknesses of the Quattro.
I don't know if I ever heard
They
of
used a
Peugeot.
similar 4-wheel drive system but packaged it very differently. Their secret was that they really nailed the car's dynamics. They built the car to look like the road-going 205, a small hatchback. It
Like a
had
Honda,
a very
low-key.
short wheelbase, which generally makes
Oh!
cars more nimble at low speeds with
Damn.
the trade-off of less stability at high speeds. However, rally stages are often so tight and twisty that this strategy paid off for Peugeot. They also did everything they could to keep the weight central.
No way.
They fitted a 1.8 litre engine in the middle of the car, although it didn't have the clever anti-lag system that the Audi did. So the drivers used an old trick to keep the turbo spooled up. They left foot braked for the corners while staying on the throttle. This kept the turbo spooled up and gave them immediate power on the exit. But what was really unusual about the 205 was the orientation they mounted the engine in. Normally, race cars have longitudinal mounted engines with the crank parallel with the direction of the car. However, Peugeot fitted it in a transverse orientation, and instead of mounting the gearbox below the engine like in the Audi, Peugeot mounted it to the side. This meant that the majority of the weight in the car was between the two axles and could be mounted lower, making the car much more nimble and responsive in the corners. Low centre of gravity means the car doesn't roll too much, and if it's in the centre of the chassis, the car is easier to rotate in the corners. The 205's weight
like there's not
wasn't
like backswing, like the back of the car is so heavy so it doesn't swing. Is that what they're saying?
In simple terms, rearward weight distribution promotes oversteer and frontward weight distribution creates more understeer. This rearward bias meant the car was easier to turn in and control through the turns. You can really see this if you watch the Audi through the corners. The Audi was very front heavy and produced a lot of understeer. The drivers are trying to neutralise this with the throttle, but they have to correct the car several times through the corner. The Quattro understeers, then oversteers, then understeers again through a turn. The drivers really have to wrestle it through the corner. The Quattro was by no means an easy car to drive. Now look at the Peugeot. There is one smooth input on the steering and the car looks much more balanced and easy to drive. There is no wonder it was quicker. It's incredible to watch as these drivers control the car when at crazy speeds on tight and twisty rally stages. Also not forgetting they are threading the car through a sea of spectators on the stage. But why are the fans allowed to be so close to the cars?
Why are they allowed?
The stages are public roads, meaning anyone could go and spectate. However, it meant that many got extremely close to the cars. Back then, people did get hit, but it was considered to be part of the challenge for the drivers. They often kept it pinned and had to hope that the fans would get out the way in time. This guy even had to jump over a passing car. Many manufacturers understood that Peugeot's approach was the way to go, all producing smaller, short wheelbase cars with all the weight in the middle. MG created the Metro with a distinctive boxy shape and a huge front wing, and the Renault 5 took a similar approach too. However, it was Lancia that did it the best. They finally scrapped rear-wheel drive after being uncompetitive all year, so they created the Lancia Delta S4, a short wheelbase four-wheel drive monster. Firstly, they developed an engine with a genius twin charging system. They fitted a supercharger to avoid the lag of a turbo, a bit like the Lancia 037.
This is so technical. It's
However,
incredible.
this created less power at high revs. As a supercharger is directly driven by the engine, it can provide boost at low revs, but saps more and more power as the revs climb. So what Lancia did was fit an additional turbocharger that would provide boost at high revs.
A turbocharger on top of a supercharger? Or a turbocharger?
Before cutting out and letting the turbo take over at higher revs.
That's crazy.
This meant the Delta S4 was amazingly powerful and had the grip to put it down onto the stage. It took many wins before eventually bringing the Group B era to a close. This era of rallying was amazing to watch. Incredibly fast cars and amazing drivers all pushing to the limits of what's possible. There were different winners every year and cars that looked remarkably different with incredible engineering.
The styles is cold, just how the body shape is tight.
That it was extremely dangerous. The cars were
Hell
too
yeah, it's
powerful,
dangerous.
difficult
Look
to
at that.
drive, and not enough
Look at
emphasis
that.
was put on the safety of drivers and spectators. The biggest issue was the minimum weight rule. Cars could weigh as little as 890 kilograms. So to be competitive, manufacturers would do anything they could to get this limit down. This created a breed of cars that were very fragile and not up to the job of protecting drivers in a crash. Many of the drivers explained that if this weight limit was higher, more strengthening could have been added to better protect the drivers in a crash.
Trash can.
Several huge crashes happened. In Portugal, Santos crested a rise in his Ford RS200. He lost control and went off the course.
Oh my God.
31 spectators and killing 3. All the teams immediately pulled out of the rally and it left Group B hanging on by a thread. A few months later, the final blow came. Lancia's Henri Toivonen was the championship favourite when he lost control late in a fast turn. He was winning by a huge margin when he and his co-driver Sergio Cresto came flying off the road, heading down a steep hill. The impact ruptured the fuel tank, spilling fuel over the red-hot turbocharger, sending the car up in flames. After
he got out of there?
Accident, it was barely recognisable as a car, and both Henry and Sergio were killed in the crash. This led to many manufacturers pulling out, and the FIA ended the Group B class the following year.
Number one, again, you will never catch me. I will be in the bleachers 5 miles out watching this rally go. Why? Like the simple fact that people want to stand that close to cars just gunning down a road makes no sense to me. I said it in the last video. It feels like what is the running of the bulls, where they let the bulls loose and people are like just like risking their life jumping in the way. But these are cars going like 90 miles an hour. So dog, this is crazy. I ain't never seen nothing like this, but I want to know more. So if you have any more rally videos or just any videos in general y'all want me to react to, please leave them in the comments below. Also, if you can, like and subscribe. It really, really helps. I want to be able to rock with y'all with more reaction videos coming up. So thank you so much for watching. Till next time.